Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Post Military Podcast, where we share stories of veterans' transition out of the military and their advice to other service members based on their life experience. Whether you are still in service, a veteran, or just someone preparing to transition into a new chapter of your life, there is something here for you to learn. I've included timestamps in the description of the episode, so head down there to see if there are any topics that are of particular interest to you. Also, while you're poking around, subscribing to the channel or podcast on your favorite platform is always greatly appreciated. Anyway, thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Post Military Podcast, the podcast where we give you stories about people's transition out of the military and into the civilian world, where hopefully you can learn a lot of amazing things from their life. With me today is someone that I'm very excited to have on. We have a lot of very similar interests outside of work. After his 8 years in the Marine Corps, he now works as a financial strategist with Pinnacle Elite down in Mobile, Alabama. He also works with Seven Eagle Group, helping them recruit military members into jobs. And what I think is most cool, he is a video game content creator on YouTube, which his channel will be tagged in the description below. So if you're into gaming, give the man some love. Go check him out. His name's Charming, and he's also a very charming guy. So, Charming, thanks so much for coming on today, man. I really appreciate you coming on to talk.
It is a good day. I always enjoy getting a chance to hang out, meet other people, chat, share a story, hear stories. Like what you're doing is phenomenal. I've had the chance to do, I think I've touched it before. I've had the chance to do something like this where I get to help share people's stories with an audience. But what you're doing for post military, it's just perfect. It's like cherry on top. So I love what you're doing here, and I appreciate you having me.
I'm super excited. I'm super excited to have you on. Yeah, I forgot to mention you did tell everybody a little bit about the show that you used to do back in the day.
Library.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a mental health podcast, and a lot of people have mental health podcasts nowadays where they talk about, hey, you could do it, you could do it, you could do it. I hate that because I don't think that's realistic. I figured for me and for my podcast, I want to share what things really are like. I've been blessed with the life that I currently have, which is great, but I've also struggled a lot as well. And I've also had a lot of different mental health issues and struggles. Spend my time in hospitals for mental health. I spend my time trying to recover. I spend a lot of time I've went through the real life situations of the stuff. I'm living through it every day. And a lot of people are. And the crazy thing is that it's so common nowadays that most people, they just accept that it's just normal to be sad, depressed, hate your life, hate other people and things like this. And so what I wanted to portray in my podcast was what it's like to be an actual human being going through these struggles, what it looks like, what your brain thinks, how you hear things, how you interpret stuff. You might hear, hey, you look good today. And to somebody who's healthy, they're like, oh, thanks. But to somebody who's unhealthy, what could that potentially sound like? How does it actually feel in the brain? And a lot of people a lot of mental health podcasts, hey, you look good today. Just learn to accept the compliment, learn to accept yourself. Yeah. Let's talk about the realism. You look good today. So what you're telling me for real is that every other day I don't look this good, or there's something about what I did. Right. And especially me, having an eating disorder, anorexia, it's been really bad for me. Let's say that's one of the days where I hadn't eaten in a couple of days. And somebody's, hey, you look good. That just reinforced the bad things that I'm doing. And a lot of people, a lot of people don't understand. They're not mindful of that kind of stuff that is going on in somebody's life. But if I could share that on a podcast, it can explain to people how you need to be more mindful of when you're talking to other people. Or it can explain to people, hey, if you feel this way, you're not alone in going through this. Legitimately, you can get assistance and help by just having a community. That was a big piece of what I wanted to do. So that was the whole purpose of the podcast. I just really want to have that sort of, flavor. But my season 2 of the podcast, I did the human library. And the whole purpose of it, there's this concept of thinking like India or somewhere across the world where basically there is this library, right? And obviously in libraries, you have books, right? Duh. But obviously all these books have stories and all this different stuff in the library, except in this specific library, instead of checking out books, you check out humans and you get to sit there and they tell you their story. They tell you your life. You get to actually interact with them and ask them questions and things like that after hearing their story. But it's really great because it's all different people from all different walks of life that are in there as being books. And so I decided to do that in podcast form, where I was, able to invite human books. We just called them humans. I was able to invite humans to the podcast and have them share their story. And then I also get the chance to chat with them, interview them, pull more information out of them, ask them that kind of stuff, where it wasn't really leading into anything specifically, but it was just great to hear somebody else's story that just might sound like yours. And not all the people that I invited were struggling with mental health, but just people from all different walks of life. I think that's super important. And I really love the fact that you've incorporated that at the same thing as well, because sharing stories can save people's lives. Like really.
Oh, for sure. And it's so fascinating. I think that for me, the post-military podcast is so cool because we all have the same starting point from leaving the military, and then all of the different ways that people just burst out from that there's just so much.
It's spider web.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy how much different paths people take and all this stuff. So it's really cool to be able to talk to folks who've gone in so many different directions, and it's just really powerful. And I also love that you talked about the mental health stuff. I think that one of the biggest things that I've found talking to veterans is we have this really funny delusion that we're the only person going through whatever the thing that we're going through is. And I don't know, in the military, you address, like, mental health is generally addressed with, we don't have time. The mission requires you to move through this and do whatever you need to do. And
you want to know the crazy thing, the crazy, and this still sticks with me.
Yeah.
I was talking to my first sergeant because this is after I jacked up my leg, and like my mental health was really starting to suffer because I couldn't, like being in the military, like where your work and your personal life are the same thing is different because you get broken and everything becomes like about you being broken, your entire life, your personal life and your work life. And I remember talking to my first sergeant, hey, first sergeant, I need to be able to go do something. I'm not doing anything with my life, with work or anything. And nobody wants a broken Marine. Cool. That still sticks with me. And I told him, like, okay, what about me going to get like help or going to like mental health treatment, therapy, maybe physical therapy, something like this? There's no way that anybody's gonna be able to fix you. If you can't fix yourself, nobody can.
Jeez.
Yeah.
that's
the kind of stuff that happens in the military day to day. That's common because we don't have time for your issue.
Yeah.
If you don't fix them yourself, that's what's that.
Yeah. And then it does. And then it encourages people to not go get help because they want to be a productive member of the society with that they're in. And it's, then you're like, oh, better shut the fuck up then and not tell anybody about this.
Exactly.
But diving into your military career, can you give all the listeners like give us like the cliff notes of that 8 years of your life that before you got out?
Cliff notes. You ever see Frozen 2?
Yes, I've seen Frozen 2.
Don't you have a daughter?
I'm about to have a daughter.
Congrats.
So
oh my God.
Thank you. I
so
appreciate
you're gonna watch
that
a lot. Frozen 2 is really good. I love Frozen 2. So you remember in Frozen 2 where Olaf gave like a quick synopsis of like Frozen 1?
Yeah.
The best summary of anything ever. You want that kind of summary? Whereas you're going to fall in love, you're going to be super motivated, hate your life, hate everybody else's life, hate the military, and then come all the way back and start all the way over.
Yes.
I want that.
I want that. I want it to be better than the snowman from Frozen 2.
All right. How much? Let me set a timer. I'm going to 2 minutes?
Oh, if you want to, you can go as long as you want, my man.
You said clip notes.
That's fair.
Clip notes. All right. Timer is on. So Never ever thought about going into the military. Never thought about it at all. Never wanted to. I was living my best life as a musician in college. When I was in college, me and my roommates decided to be yes men one day. We watched a movie by Jim Carrey, Yes Men, and we were like, you know what? We all want to go be yes men. And so the next day, it just so happened that some Marine Corps recruiters came to the college, and so they were like, does anybody want to enlist in the Marine Corps? And I had to say yes. So that's how I went into the Marine Corps. Didn't know what I was going to do, but since I was a French horn player in college, they decided, hey, you should go and be a French horn player. So I actually started off in the band. That was awesome, but also sucked at the same point in time. I got kicked out of the band. A lot of really crazy stuff happened as well, like hazing and whatnot. What ended up happening, or I ended up going up to aviation ordnance to get my new MOS. Absolutely hated aviation ordnance. Couldn't stand it. But once I got stationed in Yuma, Arizona, and I got my first divorce out there, I started doing nothing but partying. One of the houses that I lived in with a bunch of friends, they end up getting raided by the DEA for drugs and stuff like crazy stuff like that. I ended up getting I get married again to my ex-wife, who was amazing. The two of us, we met a lot of different people in the military, had a lot of different fun time. I got the chance to meet President Trump. I got the chance to meet the swaggiest, most awesome sergeant major of the Australian Ninth Army. So that was cool. He had a pimp cane as well. And so I a lot of really cool stuff. I went to go be a barracks manager for a while. Everybody hated me as a barracks manager because I did not let anybody get away with anything. And then I went to be a drill instructor. Being a drill instructor was awesome. Like the amount of people that I got the chance to meet, hang out with, teach, train, and slay was just absolutely amazing. And then I broke myself. And then my mental health suffered. And then at the end of all of it, I became a YouTuber to give my story.
So you were, wow. Okay. How much was that? 2 minutes?
That was 2 minutes.
That's awesome. Good job. That was crazy. Okay. So French horn, how did you do? Where did that come from? Were you in the band in high school and then just carried it through college?
So I started playing music when I was in second grade. I was playing the clarinet. Clarinet was pretty cool. I really loved it. I loved music though, because music was that one constant that was never constant. And what I mean by that is music is like feelings. I have tattooed right here. Music is what feelings sound like. I truly believe that. But music is like so uncertain. You never know what's going to happen in music, even though you hear the same thing over and over, but like your ear might hear something different each time. If you're playing music, you might play something differently each time. There might be a little bit more emotion in it this way. Like I can play a song today versus 10 years ago when I was in college playing for horn, and it will sound completely different. Not just because I would suck a lot more now because I have not picked it up. Like it would just sound completely different just because of the way of life happening can change everything. And I love music. Like it was something that I could hold on to all the time. And so I started that when I was in second grade. I got really good. And then once I got to middle school, I started to teach myself like saxophone, some other instruments, that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. I still like really primarily stayed on clarinet though. Once I got to high school though, I got the chance to start learning like trumpet and trombone and all the rest of that kind of stuff. The brass instruments, they really intrigued me. So I really stuck with baritone. And it wasn't until my junior year of high school where I picked up the French horn, because so growing up all my life, I had been to like all black schools, like nothing but all black schools. Max, baby, we can't be able to squeak. All black schools. I went to my second high school, my junior year, and it was all white. I was arrested in the town, like my first weekend there, for being outside past midnight. Yeah, like full on stripped naked, like in the grass. Like it was crazy. It was wild. Like there was one black family that lived in the town, and yeah, that black family had been there all their lives. So they're thoroughly indoctrinated in love of that town. But the town was built on a trust. But anyway, when I went there, I was shown the world in a different light. And by that point in time, I was just doing what my wanted me to do, go be a doctor, a lawyer, or something like that. But when I got there, my band teacher was like, "Hey, here's a French horn. Go play." I was like, "I don't play French horn." It's like the only instrument I don't play. Have fun learning it. Okay, whatever. No, I started playing it. I was apparently naturally great, like one of the best French horn players that my band director had ever heard. He said, and I guess like all the recognition that I got like made me really enjoy playing French horn. And so I just dropped everything else and I solely did that. Like I was in district band, state band, all that kind of stuff. One of the top players in the state, big. I was pretty good. Yeah. And so, yeah, I decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to make a decision for myself. Like the first time ever. And I think I might have I don't know if I said it in my little 2-minute story there, but that was the first time where I actually made a decision for myself that wasn't for somebody else, or wasn't because I needed to for somebody else, was to go to school for music. Like the guys at my new high school, they were very adamant about you do what it is that you want to do for yourself. And I think that in turn made them be lazy. Like it sounded like they were saying that so that way you can go be and do whatever you want to do. Cause like the community that I came from, this is our little community. You don't go outside of that. Like we don't grow up to become big, rich, famous, or popular and that kind of stuff. Like that was, and so switching cultures completely changed that. And I was like, okay, I can go do other things. Like I can do that. And it's crazy because like now I go back and they're all like, I don't know, like working in the farm and like not really doing anything else. I'm like, I guess if that's what you guys wanted to do, oh, fair enough. I'm like, let me go do other big things. So that's how I got into French horn. And whenever I went up into college, I got a full ride. Everybody was fighting for me to become their French horn player. That was pretty cool. And I really enjoyed doing it. I really wish that I could get back into it, which I'm slowly getting more time, but as I get more time, I just stack other things that are important to me now on top of.
I definitely understand. You always find time. We've always got things that we can do, but that's super cool that you have such a diverse musical skill set. Like that's really fascinating that you can pick up, that you have played at a high level that many instruments, which is really cool. It's not something I've ever done in my life. So I think that people who are musically inclined, it's really fascinating. So that's cool, man.
I always wanted to learn the string instruments, violin, all that stuff. Cause I look at them, I'm like, I don't know how they're doing that stuff, but they're doing it really well.
Right?
And I get pretty jealous of them.
Like throwing down on a big stand-up bass or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I always thought that ever since I watched the Aristocats, where they're like jamming on, where they're jamming on the piano. I was like, oh, the stand-up bass looks sick, and also that that cat looks like he's having a good time. But we used to live right next to New Orleans, and I would love to go down and listen to all those different jazz bands. And the funniest part is just you'd have these musicians roll into these bars who look like they were straight homeless, and then they would throw down on like a piano or something. You're like, this is the greatest music I've ever heard in my entire life. These people are just so unbelievably talented, and it was the best. That was my favorite part about this.
I've been in New Orleans a few times, but like one time I was like out there for a while. I think it was a couple years ago. But by a while, like the other times I was just literally down there just to leave for a cruise. So I didn't really get a chance to travel. But one time I actually stayed down there, and we went down to River Street, and it was around Christmas time. Oh man, it was like, there was music everywhere. I was like, this is so awesome. Like I was like, hear it out. Cause I want to play. Like, give me an instrument. Just let me play. It was so cool. It was it was awesome. Plus I had never had alligator before. And I went to they had alligator po' boys. And like they had this band and the rest. It was so nice.
That's awesome. Alligator's delicious. Tastes like chicken. Really good chicken. But
it tastes like frogs.
That's fair. That it does taste like a frog. Yeah, it does taste like a frog. That's very true. So for you, first off, going in drill instructor, crazy. You're a really nice guy. Like the couple of times I've interacted with you, I cannot imagine you in that picture behind you. Like you look really scary in that picture. So how did you end up as a drill instructor?
I am unhealthily competitive. Like I don't even need to know what the thing is. I just need to have been the one to succeed at whatever. Like that's how it's really bad because I will get into some competitive stuff that I don't even have any clue what it is. And I take it so personally too. Don't know why. You could say, hey, there is this thing going on. You win this. I'm like, I have to do that. And they're like, you don't even know what it is. I don't care, but I have to win it. I have to have it. And so going to boot camp, and the drill instructor is telling us all the time, we're top of the top dogs, for the best friends, all that kind of stuff and whatnot. And I'm thinking, if we are the best and they're training the best, that means that they have to be the best. So I need to be one of them. I was like, I have to be one of them. Like I didn't know what the Marine Corps was, didn't know anything about it, just know that I got to be one of them. And so for me, plus I really love my drill club. They did an awesome job training us. Like they did a really good job. They never put their hands on us. Yes, they never put their hands on us. They did a really good job. I think that they were great. And so over the course of my time in the Marines, while I was in the fleet, I definitely wanted to get to a point where I could become a drill instructor. It was just a matter of what does that entail? You know, is it just being a douchebag? Is it just yelling at 3-minute people? Is it choking 18-year-olds? No, it's not about any of that. It's about literally like training leaders, like, and training them to become leaders. Right. And I think the best part about it for me about getting to there was the journey of which I was trying to figure out my leadership style while I was in the Marines, where I went to be a drill instructor. And I think the biggest piece that I learned was just that I don't have to be a douchebag or anything like that in order to coach or teach or lead. I don't have to. I don't have to be a douchebag in order to punish somebody for doing what they shouldn't do. All I have to do is just hold them accountable, give them an expectation and hold them accountable to it. That's it. Right now, once I got to being a drill instructor, I learned that's really all what being a drill instructor about. Holding recruits accountable. That's it. And staying on top of them. Now the yelling and screaming part, that part just comes to the job. Obviously, eventually, after not eating so much, not sleeping so much, all this stuff, and you see this kid who just relaxed and living his best life, has 3 full meals a day, had 8 hours of sleep last night, still complains about, oh, this is too hard. Okay, first off, no, it's not. I would be in your position over and over and over again. That's number one. But then number two, like realizing that I'm going to have to teach this young man how to do everything from brushing his teeth all the way to how to wear this uniform that he's never even worn before, probably never even really seen, all the way, all in between. I'm going to have to teach them this stuff 5,000 times. If I scream at them, they're going to get it the first time or the second time. So it's much easier than telling them because nobody's screamed at them all their lives. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you get a sergeant like me in a fleet, you're going to get screamed at a lot. So might as well just be used to it now. Yeah. So I didn't necessarily have to be a douchebag. I was still just as charming as a drill instructor. I still was, but it was weird because it's like the whole accountability piece. I'm not like, you're not just about to do whatever you want. That has not happened. You'll end up getting somebody killed by doing it. But on top of that, I really couldn't be fake. Like recruits are going to sniff out fake. They're going to sniff out fake. Everybody will. And I definitely didn't want to do that.
Yeah, it's very hard to be anything other than yourself, especially when you get to those points where you're tired or you've got long days and eventually you're going to come out. Like you can't hide it forever. But for you, what was the path out of the Marines for you? What happened? Like, why did you decide to hang it up after 8 years?
So the path was not a clear path at all. Like probably like a lot of service members, like their path to getting out is never clear. Like they can't really like predict it. And when they look back at it, it starts somewhere. Like obviously there's always somewhere. Like maybe it's somebody's, you know what? I like this. I'm gonna stick out for the long haul and just do 20 and just do my stuff and get out eventually. But that's a clear path. But at some point, I'm sure that they struggle with, do I actually want to do this? For me, once I got to my first reenlistment, I put in my package to be a drill instructor on the West Coast. I want to be in San Diego. I want to go back to where I was as a recruit and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, all right, here we go. Here's the next chapter of my life. And I was having some struggles with my command because they didn't like my wife at the time. And they were forcing us to get divorced, just something crazy, like the kids out of base housing, all that kind of stuff. I started to have a really sour taste in my mouth about the people that I work with. Right. And I didn't really want to have that experience ever again. I felt like, you know what, when I'm on a drill field, it won't matter because they won't be concerned about my wife. Like they won't be concerned about my like personal life. because we got too much work to do. Like we never sleep. They're not worried about what I'm doing in my first, you know. And I was thinking like, cool, going to be a drone soldier just make me fall in love with the Marine Corps. I was like, okay. And then I got my package back, and they were like, "Yep, you're going to the East Coast to Paris Island as a drone." And I was like, "No, I don't want to go there." I was like, "I'm not." I said the West Coast. I'm already stationed in Arizona. Why I have to pick up my whole family and move them, even though they were still trying to get me to get divorced. I was like, that doesn't make sense. I'm like right down the street. I was pretty upset about it because I had heard nothing but bad stuff about Paris Island. So at that point, I was actually not going to sign my reenlistment. I was just going to get out. But then I got some guidance. Everybody told me, just go over there, just do it. Just same thing. You can be a drone soldier anywhere. Like, I went over there, whatever. And then I got injured, both mentally and physically. And it ended up being so bad that they were med boarding me to get out. Like I broke my legs, had some stress fractures, the mental health piece, all that, those all together ended up having them to med board me out. But by that point in time, like my time as a drill instructor, like, yeah, I refell in love with the Marine Corps, but I fell in love with the Marine Corps in a way that like, I need to stay here as a drill instructor and do this. And that's it, because the rest of the Marine Corps isn't going to treat me the same way. Even though like I wasn't treated the best way as a drill instructor, but I could at least deal with that. I didn't want to have to go back to these green side people who like, they are just always in your business. They don't care about you at all. There's no real growth there. I didn't want to go back to that. I didn't want to also go back and have to deal with what it was like to be a leader who held people accountable in a regular Marine Corps. Like I did not want to do that because I have friends now that I was drill instructors with who are back in the fleet, and they're just trying to do regular stuff and say, hey, no, Marine, you cannot do this. And then all of a sudden they're in trouble because, oh, this isn't the drill field. You're not a drill field anymore. You're like, this is regular Marine stuff that I'm doing. And I was like, I can't deal with that. Because I was already like that before being a drill soldier. After being a drill soldier, people are just going to always be yelling. I ain't got time for that. So I was like, if I can't stay here, I don't want to be.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And what was that preparation process like for you to get out, since you were going through a med board and everything else?
A whole lot of waiting and guessing. Whole lot of waiting, hoping and guessing. That was really it. My med board started in, I think like February of 2021. And I didn't get out until August of 2022. So I was waiting for a year and a half trying to figure out. And whenever all my stuff finally got approved and signed off, they were like, hey, you should get your 30-day letter here pretty soon. That was 5 months before I got my 30-day letter. Yeah. And so it was just a whole lot of waiting. It sucked because I couldn't plan anything. I couldn't plan where I was going to work at. The lease on my apartment was up. And so I was like, do I get a new lease? Why not? What do I do? And so I was just like, you know what? Screw it. I ended up moving everything, got a new place where I was going to live at, started paying rent, and then went back hoping that maybe I would get out soon. So I was paying rent for like months before I even got out in a whole different place that I wasn't even living in. Just hoping that they would let me out at some point. And I went and stayed with my friend for a few months. I thank God that he just let me stay with him for a few months. Like while I was in South Carolina, finish up the med board process. And then finally I got my letter, my 30-day letter. And they were like, and it said, hey, today is the 16th. You have until the 31st to get your stuff together and get out. I was like, oh my God, I got 2 weeks. And also I had enough days of terminal. So I was like, I was preparing to get out forever ago. So I had already checked out of everywhere. I had already signed out, fortunately enough. So I was like, I got 3 days to get my stuff together. And I'm just going to take time the rest of my time to get out. So I couldn't set up I was trying to I even did start applying to jobs, but I couldn't prepare for it because I didn't know when I was going to be out. I didn't know when I was going to be able to. So I started looking for online jobs. And I was like, how do I do? I'm not the kind of person to do jobs online or whatever. I don't even know what kind of jobs are out there for that. It almost sucked too because the only experience that I had was in fitness training, and at that point my legs were broken. So what fitness training can I do? So my path was just like not existent. Like I was just in a circle, just sitting there looking. I don't know. Hopefully this some random path is created. There was none. When I finally got out, I was like, I'm going to go to school. Fortunate enough, it was beginning of August. And so I did late registration so I could go to school. And I started working with like the VEA's BRNE program for school. So that was good. That took a while to process. And so since I was late registering, and that also took a while to process and trying to communicate, I started school, and then the VA didn't get the chance to pay for school. So I had to drop all my classes after a month. The downside of that is the school still charged me for the whole semester because of that. So I owed the school like $10,000 so I could re-register. So yeah, that part sucked. So I didn't have a job, and then I had to jump out of school. I was just, I didn't know what was going to happen.
How did you, looking back on it now, how did you deal with all of that uncertainty? Because I think that a lot of veterans get out. They all get out. We all get out at some point. And then everybody encounters some level of uncertainty that's like scary or just not great. And people handle that in a variety of different ways. And so what do you think you were able to do to be successful in that transition, regardless of all that uncertainty and really getting jerked around by life?
I don't really think I was ever successful, like with the transition. I honestly felt like I was like, you got this hill and it's just like all rocks, and you stumble on one rock, you chip on one, and then the rest of the rocks roll down as well. And so do you. And then eventually you are going to hit the bottom of something. Like, and even if you don't go back up that hill, you're at the bottom, so you can't go any lower. That's really what it felt like. Like I just got down there and there was nothing else I could do. I didn't have any income coming in because also my disability, like one thing that they don't tell you too, for anybody who is going through a medical process or end up like expecting any sort of disability. One thing they don't tell you is just that while you're in and you're going through the whole process and they're figuring out your claims and stuff, and they give you like your percentage, whether let's say that they give you 80%, they say, hey, your rating is 80%. Okay, cool. And then you get out. Well, as soon as you get out, that percentage is not official. That's pre-rated, or what's like the pre-approved amount. When you get out, they're going to redo the claim process and relook at you and then give you an actual legitimate number. And so you're not going to start getting disability immediately. And so because I thought that, okay, I got 80% or whatever, I'm going to get out and in 1 month, I'm going to start making my paychecks. No, it was 3 months before I got my first paycheck from disability. And so I'm thinking this upcoming month is going to be the month where I'm going to get paid. Okay, nope, this next month is, and I'm on the phone with them and I'm waiting and all this kind of stuff. And so because of that, I never knew. And so I was like, I guess I got to get a job. Like my body's still messed up. Like I haven't been able to go see a therapist. I haven't been able to be at physical therapy because I don't know anybody out here. I haven't been able to get a hold of starting physical therapy and all this. It was a lot of stuff. And so eventually, like I was getting evicted and I was like, I got to figure something out. And so I just was like, I guess maybe I'll just DoorDash to make some kind of income. And so I went to start DoorDashing, and then I was like, you know what, I ended up getting a job at the mall, just working at a Cinnabon. And there, it was cool. I really hated being around so many different people and so many civilians all the time, just because like it was definitely a huge culture shock for me. I'm not used to being around so many people just doing whatever they want to do. That was really weird for me. And it's crazy because I know like a lot of people that get out of the military and they don't want to be around military people, and they want to be around civilians, but then they get around civilians and it's just like, yeah, that was me. And so I stayed away from everybody. So I didn't make any friends. I would just go to work, do what I had to do, and then leave. And so that's pretty much how it was. But the sad part about it is just that getting paid so little in the military, but working so much, like you get used to that. You're okay with that. And like your view of how much you get paid is really skewed. is I got promoted within 3 months all the way up to being a district manager of a bunch of stores. And my pay got cut as I went up. And as I worked more, my pay got cut. And it's like, successful? No, I was just stupid. I had to do something because I was at the bottom. I had to do something. And I think a lot of people that I've met, when they get out, they continue looking for the best thing that is going to be enough. Like, looking there, I'm not going to stop to like $60,000 a year. That's it. Like that, like I have to get out and do the best thing. They're not really okay with taking stepping stone to get there. Because they leave off their time in the military and they think, okay, I need to do something that's equivalent. Some people will. And if you set yourself up for that, then yeah, you're good. But a lot of people that I've come across, a lot of military people, they're not going to get out with a perfect plan all the way set up. And then they have the all or nothing mindset. I need to have the perfect job that allows me to be with my family, that allows me to take vacation, that allows me to do all this stuff. The reality is the civilian world isn't. And I think I learned that by being there. And I was like, yeah, I might just have to rebuild myself. All the rest of these people, the rest of these civilians that I'm working with, they've had the last 5 to 10 years to work with this company, work in the civilian world and see how that kind of stuff is. But for me, I've been completely detached from the world. And now I have to not only reattach to the world, but like also build up my credibility as like somebody in this. Like people really truly don't care that you're in the military.
No,
Shockingly enough,
not at all.
they don't care. They actually truly like, they don't care. Don't care.
No.
You can say, oh, I was in the military. Oh, great. What can you do?
Yeah, it's crazy.
They don't care.
Yeah. And if you're in like, they have this very small set of assumptions on what you did in the, like you're in the Marine Corps and they're like, you were kicking down doors or
exactly.
I
Screaming
can't tell you how many,
day.
I can't tell you how many times people have been like, oh, so you flew planes because you're in the Air Force. And I was like, flew through cyberspace a couple of times. Fiber pilot, like that's about it. But no. And so I remember looking back on my first couple of months out of the military. I'm like, I must have been super annoying because I brought it up way too much. I was just like, and I don't know, it's not bad. I think that my military experience certainly gave me the ability to make good decisions in the situations where I brought it up. I shouldn't have brought it up because no one gives a shit. So exactly. So looking back on your career looking back on your transition, you help people now with you've helped people with Seventh Eagle Group. You've had your podcast where you've talked to people about mental health. What other advice would you give people who are preparing for that transition now, using that experience that you've gleaned from all of these different places? What other advice would you give folks who are preparing for that transition?
There's so many resources that you're going to get, like your last 6 months to a year while you're in. There's so many of them. It's like a bomb. Like you won't also be able to catch all of it. So the specific stuff, like there is some jewels hidden in there that a lot of people don't know. I think, and this is why I do what I do now, but I think your best bet is to find someone who is out of the military already. They also know all the resources that are actually important to you. They can help you with finding somewhere to work and also to make sure that your finances are taken care of. Like that, those 4 things, like that's why I do what I do, because I think most importantly, if you have somewhere to go to work, your finances are taken care of, and somebody that can point you in the right direction for whatever resource you need, you'll be good. Because they're going to pump so many resources and knowledge into you like your last year. And you're like, and on top of that, not all of it is like the best information. Like the best information. Some of like a lot of it is pretty useful, but like they'll tell you, for instance, like, yeah, when you get out, wait till you find another job that has a 401k, and then when you're TSP to that 401k. I'll tell you that. They think that's the best option. They just don't. That's not the best option. Or they tell you, hey, build up this resume to look like this and this. And then they tell you for a quick second, hey, go make a LinkedIn. Okay, cool. But they don't actually coach you on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is huge. It's, oh man, like I heard about LinkedIn all my time in the military, but never used it, never thought about it. LinkedIn is like this world, this unknown world for somebody who's never used LinkedIn. If you've never built a resume, with a lot of military people have it, building a resume is like, what is this? Like, it's the same thing on LinkedIn. It's a skill that you have to learn. It's not just like Facebook or anything like that. And so a lot of the stuff that they tell you, but they don't really teach you, coach you, or guide you. They don't really know much more past saying the words that were on the paper that told them to tell you, hey, do this. They don't know that. They don't know that stuff. So finding someone as the focal point for you of all those things is perfect. Like, you know how you have a sponsor when you come into the military? You need a sponsor when you get out. Yeah. And that's why I do what I do now, because 70 Group helps with specifically that. All right.
Do you think that when people are looking for this sponsor, do you think that they should be finding someone who is part of an organization like what you're doing, or do you think that they should just reach out to a veteran on LinkedIn? What do you think is the best way for someone to go find that sponsor?
I definitely think that finding like military recruiting companies is probably one of the best ways. Obviously, like definitely reaching out to people on LinkedIn, reaching out to people who've gotten out will assist as well. But everybody's going to have their own different story. And the reason why I say the recruiting companies and things like that is because they will have dealt with numerous amounts of people getting out. So they would have had many different times to practice all these different scenarios and options, right? One person getting out only knows their experience. And so they only know, hey, look, all I really need to do is this and this, but that might not apply to every person. So if you listen to just that one person's advice, you might end up missing what actually applies to you. But going to a company that helps place you into a career, or that works with a lot of veterans as they're transitioning, things like that, they've seen a lot more. And so they can say, based on what you're going through in your situation, in your picture, this is probably the best for you, because like I've worked with this person, they needed this, or this, they needed this one, or whatever the case. They typically also have a lot more resources connected to military or veteran stuff as well. So I would definitely say reach out to companies like that are either like recruiting companies or help with transition.
And in terms of preparing to get out, in terms of the mental health aspect, I really liked what you brought up at the beginning of the podcast, where you were talking about how a lot of people are just like, push through it, you can do it, like those kinds of things. And I think that is the same advice that people hear when they're getting out of the military. And I feel like most folks are in a very vulnerable position when they get out of the military, because they're resetting their life, they're going through this identity crisis, and then you also have to unpackage all of the things that you picked up when you were in the service. And what's like the charming opinion on how to actually work through that kind of stuff and not just be like, push through it, you can do it, like be positive?
Oh man, what is my opinion is that the suck is going to suck, and trying to avoid the suck is going to make the suck worse. And that it's okay for things to suck, and it's okay for things to not be okay. We hear it a lot, but we don't hear it as much, and we don't truly like always realize what that means. It's okay not to be okay. Like it legitimately is. And when you can just say, okay, cool, this sucks. I'm not going to do anything against the suck part. I'm just going to let it happen. I obviously say get help, but not all the time can you get help. I got out in August. My first therapy appointment wasn't scheduled until January. So, which I needed. And so in between that time, I'm like, yep, the suck is going to suck. And I have to deal with it, not try and deal with it, push through it, but just know it's going to suck. No matter what, that's going to happen. And so with that happening from there, what else can you do while everything still sucks? There's something that you can do to at least move along, or to gain something 1% of the way, right? even though for me, like I was going through all that kind of stuff, I didn't have to go find a job because no matter what, it's like if you don't want to get to rock bottom, you're going to figure out at least 1% of how to stay and maintain being okay in some sort of way. But once I had to get a job, I was like, I got to get a job. Okay. Now I'm doing this. Obviously, like I know I have to get a job, but like I had to get a job sooner than I thought I was going to have to. And then it became more and more difficult. But the easy answer is let the suck, but realize while it's sucking, you have to do something you have to do something for yourself. And then I couldn't imagine going through the stuff I went through with a family. Oh, I could imagine that. And because now at that point, like me, I can just think about myself and think, yeah, this does suck. Like everything in life is horrible. I don't have a plan. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I want to do tomorrow. I don't know what my next meal is going to be. But at least at the end of the day, I know tomorrow I'm still going to be alive. Now with that, I definitely leaned on people that I continued to lean on while I was in the military. I think a lot of people lose out on that piece. I think it's like you graduate high school and a lot of people just stop talking to those people from high school. They maybe talk to the key best friends or whatever the case is for a little bit, but like I continued leaning on them because I needed to keep some kind of sameness of my life, even though everything was horrible and everything changed. Right. And so I was so used to like, yeah, these are the people that I talk to all the time, like whether it's good stuff or bad stuff or whatever, I made sure I went back to them and continued talking to them as much as I could, just so that way I could keep the sameness. I think that really allowed me to hone in, even though everything's still soft.
I think keeping some of that sameness is really important. I had a guest a while ago who really said that people should be looking to change things in degrees. Like you shouldn't just 1 second you're military, the next second you're something completely different, because that level of change all of a sudden is just traumatic for most human beings to go from like your whole identities get different, your job's different, where you live's different, like all these things. You have to, it's much easier to just slow roll that transition. But I think so many people are like, I'm out of the military, peace. And then they just burn the ships and then they leave and they never go back. Yeah. And then later on, they're like, what happened to me? This is wild. So for you, how did you decide to get into like financial strategy? How did you end up in that specific position?
So once I really got tired of my job as a district manager, I was like, I got to do something else. I was like, this ain't it for me. This was a good stepping stone, but I know this ain't it for me. I had to figure out a new career path. And I was like, for me, one, I hate working for other people. Hated it. Like, hated it. I heard something the other day. It said, if you don't build your own dreams, somebody's going to hire you to build theirs. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And I was like, I'm doing so much to build this man's business as a district manager of these stores. And they're buying Teslas, they're buying all this different stuff. And what am I doing? I'm struggling. And so I was like, I have to figure out some way to work for myself. So that was number one. So I started looking that way. And then I'm like, okay, well, if I work for myself, who do I want to work with? Who is the people that I want to work for or with or whatever? I was like, the only people I really care to work with is veterans. We understand each other. We know each other. And so then I was like, okay, cool. So that means I should probably go get some job with veterans doing something. So I actually started looking at jobs with the VA. And I was trying to plan my next steps of like education, like school, based on whatever the VA's jobs were looking like. And so there were a lot of engineering things or I don't really know. There was a lot of stuff that I saw and I was like, okay, it looks like I might need a business degree. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me go ahead and get a business degree. So I changed my degree major to business. And in doing that, at the same time that I was looking at how like Facebook and Google, Twitter and all that stuff listens to you talk, watches the stuff that you put. Yeah. I think around that same time, I saw an Indeed listing or something like an ad for helping veterans in some way. And I was like, let me click on this. So I clicked on it and it took me to Indeed. And it was that 70 group was looking for people to help assist and take care of veterans. And I was like, okay, cool. Said that you could work part-time or full-time. I was like, if I work part-time, that also works. So then I could cut my hours as the district manager and work part-time on this, helping veterans do that. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And at the same time, I saw you could potentially we can make 6 figures. I was like, okay, good. That's a good amount. I think that's decent for whatever it was. And so I got pretty interested in it. So I think I put my application in like around April-ish, and a couple months go by, I completely forgot about it. And then I got called from the founder of Seven Eagle Group. And I was like, oh, I completely forgot about this. And he was explaining to me what it is. And I talked to some other leaders within Pinnacle as well, because he was like, hey, I think you'll be perfect for this company, right? Like they obviously hire and recruit for certain companies. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I said, so I talked to some leaders in Pinnacle, and I was like, finances, I think that's for me. Like I don't know much about finances. Like I've tried to learn enough to make sure I can take care of myself now. Like I did taxes for a couple of years when I was in the military, like I was in Marine Corps, like that kind of stuff. But I wasn't really, it's like finances, it's not really my kind of thing. Like I'm not good at that stuff. But I think for them, what ended up catching me was, they were just talking to me like, finances is your thing. Then what is your thing? We were trying to figure that out. And so I was like, I'm really good at leading leaders. And I was like, oh, that's something that you can do here. And I was like, oh, tell me more. And then like, they told me about their like organizational values, faith, family, finance, fitness, fun. That sounds like the Marine Corps 6F. That makes sense. So I was like, all right, cool. This is something that maybe I'll give a shot. Like for me, it's not so much of doing like being a financial strategist that I love about what I do. It's just that I love getting a chance to help out these other veterans and take care of them, whether they're service members transitioning or veterans already, or any family really, because I can help any family. But specifically that part brings me the most value. And whether it's doing it with finances, helping them find a job, chatting with them, having conversations, building them up, teaching them, whatever the case is, that's the real piece. And then we just happen to do it with finances, which makes it even better for the people that I'm trying to help out. Because like I said, I think a huge part of getting out is making sure that your finances are managed. There's so much that you have to do with getting out, like figuring out your new budget for wherever you're going to move to. If you're going to move, figuring out, there's so much stuff. What you going to do with your TSP? What are you going to do with your SGLI? What are you going to do with all this different stuff? Like, there's so much that you just don't know that you don't know. And that's the sad part, is you just don't know that you don't know what to do. And so because of that, you end up making bad decisions, bad mistakes, or mistakes that might cost you your entire life or your retirement, things like that. And that's like the finances piece is just like the vehicle to me being able to help veterans. But it's the fact that I get to help veterans in this way. That part is like what helped me out the most, or what does it for me the most.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that finding a means by which you can give back to the community, whether that be the veteran community or another community, is just so incredibly important to the DNA of who we are as veterans. And I think that whether you do it as your job or you do it on the side, volunteering at a church, whatever, I think it's a crucial aspect that veterans need to have, and most people choose not to, or they just overlook it for some reason. So I love that you're talking about it, because I think that it's just so important. That's what people like seek out for sure. What do you think are some of the most important financial things people should be looking into before they get out of the service?
That's super easy. One, because I talk to the veterans about this all the time. One, budgeting and managing expenses. Two, your debt management. It's huge. There's a ton of, we all know that all the biggest and best loan sharks and car companies that know how to really steal from you I'll say they're stationed right outside of base. All of them. You also need to make sure you have an emergency fund, because you might go 2 or 3 months without an income, or with little income. But then also know what to do with your TFP. If you don't know what to do with your TFP, which most of them don't, I'll tell you, there are options outside of the stock market, outside of the 401k. But then also, make sure that you understand what kind of insurance is out there. Because obviously most of us, we get out, we don't know anything about insurance. I had one client, he got out. He didn't know anything about insurance, so he bought 11 different insurance policies for himself. 11 different insurance policies for himself because he just didn't know. He just didn't know what to do. But he was like, I just want to make sure I'm covered in all the bases. Crazy thing is he had $1.6 million of insurance covered, which sounds like a lot. However, he actually had $2.7 million of coverage based on the homes that he has, the properties that he has, all this kind of stuff to be able to pay off all that kind of stuff if he died, which his health isn't the greatest. And then he was paying over $1,300 a month in like insurance premiums. And he was like struggling to make some of his like credit card payments, car payments and stuff. I was like, this is why you're paying $1,300 a month for all the different policies. And so I was like, that's stupid. Well, stop that. But like a lot of people, they don't know. So either they go all the way and they buy 10 different insurance policies or they don't get any. Right. And then something happens and it puts them and their family in a bad predicament. Right. So people need to understand what their new budget's going to be. They also need to understand how they're going to get out of debt. They need a clear path on how they're going to get whatever debt paid off. Because if you're thinking, oh, I have this debt, I'm going to work on it while I get out, you're going to accrue much more debt. But if you have a strategy already to knock it off, at the minimum, you will accrue more debt. At the most, you're going to just clear your debt and you're going to take care of it. Because like your cash flow is going to change drastically whenever you get out. And so I think talking to people about talking to someone about their cash flow, about your cash flow, your debt management, and then building an emergency fund, putting your TSP somewhere that's going to actually allow you to retire for real instead of like just hang out in the stock market. And then also making sure that you're also protecting your life and your family's life.
Yeah. So for all those listeners out there, make sure you contact Charming after this for some financial planning.
Yeah, it's funny because I have an editing team, I have a marketing manager as well, and
yes,
we've been working behind the scenes the last month or so on building a new YouTube channel, and this is where I'm going to give a lot more of my time, where I actually do financial audits for like content. And it's supposed to be entertaining, right? Like where, let's say I do have this guy who comes in, I have 11 different insurance policies and I can't pay my bills and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, you're not going to eat for the next 3 weeks because you need this much money to be able to pay this off and then stop doing this. You're being an idiot and do that. I want to do that kind of stuff. That's what I want to do content wise, but that's what I also do at the same point in time. And so
that's awesome.
I think that is something that is key. Like, even if it's not for me, with me, like there are people out there that'll help you out. Not a lot of people know a lot of stuff, but there are people out there that help these veterans out.
That's awesome, man. I love it. When do you think that next that YouTube channel is going to go live?
Before the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah. So within the next few weeks.
Awesome.
I'm not even sure when this podcast will go live, but yeah.
This podcast will go live in January. So when you are live, send me your other YouTube channel and I will make sure that it's tagged in the description. And also right now, if you're on YouTube, click over there. So that'll be, easy. Wear your drill instructor hat though. I think people would really eat that up.
You said, where?
hit him with the knife. Hit him with the knife hand.
In the thumbnail, I just got back to pay commercial.
Yeah.
Oh, they would love that. Oh, they love that. I get all the clips.
Oh my God. People would love that so much.
It's just like me going crazy on some like 50-year-old person talk about, I want to retire in 3 years. I'm like, what did you do all of your life? I feel like you can retire in 3 years. You haven't saved $1. You spent all your money on cigarettes. You haven't done a shit.
See, look, we got the content. I'm already ready. I'm ready to tune in already. Man, if you start wearing the hat, I want everybody to know that that was my idea.
That was your idea. Every time I do it, you got to get a cut.
No, don't give me a cut. I just want credit. That's all. So how did you get into YouTube? Talk me through that process.
2016, I went on a cruise. And that was my very first cruise. I loved it. I met a lot of people. I talked to a lot of people. That was back when I actually really liked it. And it was awesome. And everybody's like, that was back in the day, like I don't want to say back in the day. I was literally like 6 years ago. Man. But
7.
I guess it would be technically 8 because I started the beginning of January of 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, almost
Okay.
8 years. But people were like, "Hey, we want to see your life outside the boat, like off the cruise. And are you a YouTuber?" Because like that, like I said, that was back then. They were like anybody who like had a crazy or like a boisterous personality. I don't know the word.
Yeah.
Like they were
Boisterous
on
is a good
YouTube
one.
vlogging.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
on YouTube doing
Yeah.
vlogs and stuff like that, and everybody loved it. Everybody ate it up. And so they were like, "Hey, you should do YouTube." And I was like, "I really have time, whatever, cool." So I started doing it. Started doing a lot of vlogging. I started doing like a lot of insight to my life kind of stuff. And then
Mhm.
it switched over to like pop culture, like talking about music and news and things like that. And then eventually about close to what, 2021 is whenever I
Mhm.
switched everything over to gaming. And then that's where the gaming piece came in and that kind of entertainment and streaming. And that's where everything really blew up for me. That was literally just how I got to YouTube. People were just like, "Hey, want to see your life outside the boat?" And I was like, "Okay, cool.
That's sick.
I guess I'll start."
And why'd you decide to pivot into gaming? What drove that?
I think COVID happened. I had never been a gamer at all. I've never been a gamer, but COVID happened. And I was like, wow, I'm not being a Jones brother because even like COVID stopped like boot camp too. Like recruits weren't coming to boot camp. And so I had a lot of time on my hands. And so I decided I bought like a PlayStation. That was the first time I ever bought a console. I bought Call of Duty. I started playing Call of Duty, sucked at it, but I was like, whatever, it's fine. I just keep playing it. I really enjoy playing zombies then. And so I started getting really good at zombies and I met some friends and 3 of us were really good at zombies. And we actually started breaking world records for like playing zombies. And so I needed to start recording the gameplay so I could submit it to like the record people. And so I was like, whatever, I'll just stream it just so it can automatically record from my PS4. And so I was streaming it and then people would like start jumping into my stream and they were like really intrigued by the entertainment, the conversation and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I guess maybe I'll just stream regularly. And then I started streaming regularly and people were like, "We want videos for when you're not streaming." And I was like, "Oh my God, y'all want everything from me." And so I started making videos outside of stream and the videos weren't even really gaming videos. They were about all this other stuff that I was doing, like that I would do on stream. And so I switched up from like like pop culture, the vlog and all that kind of stuff to gaming just because, probably because of COVID.
Yeah. Listen, people had a lot of free time on their hands, and
Oh, yeah.
I love gaming, so I respect the decision. So that's which was one of the reasons why I reached out to you in the first place. The guy who put us in touch was like, he's got a gaming YouTube channel. I was like, he's coming onto the podcast. So,
Oh yeah, man, I love gaming.
uh,
It's weird. What's really weird? How we talk
What?
about COVID. It was the blip
oh, for
from
sure.
event. It's crazy because it was like
Well,
that.
yeah. I was thinking about this very recently. Like, I don't know of another event that's treated as such a like pivot point in
Yeah.
history.
Not
Like,
even
I'm
the
sure
Great
it's
Depression.
I don't even know. Yeah, like I certainly not since I've been alive has something existed that was like there was the before
Yeah.
COVID and now there's the now. And it's like that's
Yeah.
when it happens. Yeah, it's crazy. I'll be telling my kids about it for sure.
Yeah, like there was the world before COVID was different. Like
Yeah.
imagine like being in line waiting for ice cream and like being so close that you could almost elbow. Yeah, this is elbow.
Yeah.
Elbow block somebody who's in line right next to you. Imagine that.
Yeah.
They'd be like, "What? Why would you ever be that close to somebody?" Like,
Right?
they're-
Yeah.
well,
Or
you could get
like
bit.
yeah, exactly. Or like someone wears a mask
Oh
in
yeah.
2017 and you'd be
Oh
like,
yeah. What's
why?
wrong with that person? Like
Yeah, it's
uh,
strange. Why are you
yeah,
doing that?
telling them about the tissue.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy, man. Yeah, and then so many
The
people.
world
Yeah,
stopping and
it,
everything was so
unreal
bad and was different. It was crazy. Like being
for
stuck in your
sure.
house for so long. People were like being stuck in your house. I love being in my house. Different. It was different
It's
before.
yeah, because you couldn't even leave, and then
Right.
yeah, dude, and the military was weird then because I was in education. I was in a training command too during COVID. It's like No one's
Well,
coming
what do
through
we
the
do?
pipeline.
No.
And it's
What do we
yeah.
do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was a
Yeah.
wild couple of years for sure, man. For people who are getting out of the military and might be considering like content creation or anything like that, do you have any advice that you would pass on to them for getting started or possibly diving into the world that you've been in for 7 years, almost 8?
You want to get into content creation, you need to understand that it is 100% a business, not a job. What that means, you are a business owner, not self-employed. You are a business owner. There's a difference between being an employee, being self-employed, and being a business owner. Being self-employed, you are still working all the time for whatever. Being a business owner, you have to create processes that make everything else successful, that generate, and that happens without. That's what being a business owner is. And with being a content creation, you have to do things to where systems are set up. If you do it to where you're self-employed, like you're doing everything all the time, and every single like, every single click, everything comes from you and what you did. If you say you go on Twitter and you're like, hey, I'm going to post this, bro, whatever. And that is what generates anything, like all the time. If you have to be there for anything to happen, you're not going to be successful. You're going to lose a lot of motivation because you're not treating it like a business. You're just treating it like it's a job, right? Like you need to know the business numbers. You need to know like what you're putting into the business, what your investment is, whether it's money, time, or whatever. And then also what you're getting out of it, and understand that like it might be a long time before you are profitable. Like most businesses are profitable after 3 to 5 years, right? You have to understand that it is a business and you're going to put a lot of investment into it. And while doing that, make sure you have a full-time job. Make sure you have a full-time job. And it sucks because full-time jobs are going to take away from the time that you want to put into your business. It's going to take even longer to do that. But being in content creation is 100% a business.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think that I don't think enough people really understand the amount of time required. You either have to take a ton of time or you have to pay someone to do it. And there's a lot of steps to doing the thing. And so I completely agree with you. Treating it like a business, running it like a business is incredibly important. And what advice would you give to people about working through? So you said you're hyper competitive.
Oh,
Doing what
unfortunately, I am.
doing what you want in content creation versus seeing numbers that other people get in
Oh,
content
that's good.
creation.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a struggle all the time. That's a struggle all the time. Where you're passionate, you have to fall in love with with your business. That's the other thing. Falling in love with your business, because that's what kind of allows me to take some ease off some of the competition, right? If you fall, I love that you asked that, because I'm not super religious at all, but there is a script in the Bible. The scripture says, love is patient, love is kind. It is not envy. It is not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, and then the rest of the stuff. But I love that because that explains to you what it looks like and what it means to love. All right. And you can take that and do whatever you want with it for whatever you're like. But with me being a business owner, being a businessman, I was like, oh man, maybe if I follow up in my business, it'll take it to the next level. If like I follow up in my business, then I'll be able to be more mature, like business, mature minded, all these kind of stuff. First thing, love is patient. I have to be patient with my business. It might take a while to get it to where I want. It is not envy. Yeah, I got it. That's where that competition piece comes in at. I cannot judge somebody else's highlight reel based on the work that I'm putting in behind the scenes. I don't know what work they're putting in behind the scenes. I don't know what work they did put in behind the scenes to get whatever numbers or whatever it is that they've got. I don't know. But all I'm able to see and judge is this. So it's different when it comes to competition. And this is where it's been easy for me to be able to separate and say, this isn't a competition in this round, right? Whereas let's say that there is let's say that there is this YouTube competition where there's like this pot of money and only the best YouTubers can make. That's a competition in my eye. It's not competition looking at somebody else's numbers and what somebody else is doing and comparing that to myself. That's comparison, not competition. Right. And so it took me a while. And I think it was literally this, because I remember sitting and hearing this and thinking about all this stuff, thinking about it for my business as a financial strategist, and then also my business as a content creator. And then it is also not proud. And I feel like pride is a huge downer to pride comes from a lot of the belief that you can compete better than somebody else and do better. I think that's where a lot of that comes from. And when it says proud, I have to understand that not all the time is it a competition. A lot of times I can be just good at something and just let that be that. I don't have to be better than everybody else. And so that's that. If you ever want to get into content creation, if you want everyone to get into business owning and business management, that kind of stuff, I think this scripture actually matters a lot. And it's crazy because like I bring up scriptures when it comes to business and not religion or relationships or anything else like that. But
Yeah.
Hey, faith.
If it works,
It works. It works.
I love it because I'm a religious guy, and that's the first time I've ever heard that verse applied in that way, and I love it. Like I think that's a very unique take on that on what love is, and I think it's cool, very profound.
If you say many things, I hear it completely differently. I've learned that like over the last few years.
Yeah, I think that I can already tell you have a really cool way of managing perspective. Like you've told me in this past hour and 18 minutes, all of these different things and adversity that you've had to go through, but you also started the podcast by saying you've had an incredibly blessed life. And I think that to arrive at that conclusion while also having to have gone through all the things that you've gone through requires someone who can master their perspective through life. And I think it's a very admirable thing to have done, especially with what you've gone through.
Years and years of therapy. Still in therapy.
I think everyone should be.
I think everyone too.
Yeah. It's building that ability to self-diagnose and to be able to talk through stuff is such a important aspect of life that I think is overlooked by a lot of folks, especially in the military, just because we're not used to talking about our feelings or reflecting on things. I think that it's
Trust me, if you're reflecting on something, you're probably reflecting on how you did something horrible and you got in trouble for it and you got caught and how you're never going to do it again, but you also understood that you were having fun, so you really don't care. Or you're reflecting upon how much sleep you never get.
Yep.
And then how horrible everything is in life. That's the reflecting that we do in the military.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. And it's, we reflect on things that we can complain about.
Oh yeah, that too. That's the best part about it. It ain't doing what it's supposed to unless we're complaining about it.
Hey, ain't that the truth?
It ain't military grade unless we can complain about
it. I love it. Charming. So the last question that I want to ask you before we wrap up is, what is your final piece of advice that you want to leave the listeners with?
There was something else that I heard. I got to make sure I say it right. Oh yeah, I got to make sure I say it right. I literally wrote down. Okay. All right. I got three pieces. And this I've heard from a fantastic woman. She said some really great words and they really stuck with me. I like to make sure that I say them perfectly whenever I tell them to people. But the difference between who you are and who you want to be is what you do. I think that is huge. Obviously, here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. The only difference is what you do. That's it. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is being a little extra, right? A lot of people, they want to be profound. They want to do all, You got to give it more. You have to, right? And then the last piece is success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It's from what you do consistently. And the reason I say that is a huge one because a lot of people, they move in bursts and stops. They get motivated for this amount of time and they go on there and they're getting ready to get out and they collect all the jobs. They do their resume all at the same time. And then they talk to all these other people and they make all these phone calls all at the same time. And then for the next 3 months, chilling, relaxing, hanging out, doing whatever, right? You don't have to give 100% right now and burn yourself out. You can very much give 100% over the next year to prepare yourself to get out. And I think that's the best way to get success.
I completely agree. Consistency, doing a little bit extra and a little bit extra over a long period of time is what's going to give you that success that you want. And combine that with being patient, not boasting, not being envious. I think that those are two amazing pieces of advice to leave the listeners with. So, Charming, thank you so much for coming on today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome getting to talk to you.
It's been a while since I've been in the podcast. So I definitely enjoy it. It's something that's nice and warm.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming on, talking through your story, being as vulnerable as you've been. It's been absolutely awesome. Where can people find you? Where should people be looking?
Oh, you can find me anywhere. It's Sub to Charming. At Sub to Charming is literally where you can find me on anything.
Okay,
so at
cool.
Sub to Charming, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, you actually have to spell out my name, but
I'll make sure that all of that will be linked in the description below. Go down there, give the man some love. Go check out his gaming content if that's what you're into. Go check out his new YouTube channel if you're looking for financial advice and watching someone scream at somebody else for making poor financial decisions. But that is it. If you enjoy this content, liking, subscribing, sharing with people you know who need to hear it is always greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the episode. All of you out there, the reason why we do this. And that's it. We will catch you on the next episode of the Post-Military Podcast.
Before you end it, there's a nice little feature. While you're watching this video and while you're listening. It's a subscribe button. Now, every time that I say subscribe, the subscribe button is going to become really pretty and do like a little sparkly celebration.
Uh-huh.
If it's not doing that, that's because you actually subscribed to him.
Thanks, Charming. I appreciate it. And that's it, everyone. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Post-Military Podcast. Peace.